The wind screamed like it was tearing the world apart, white and endless, erasing roads, fences, memory itself. Snow slammed sideways, sharp as glass, swallowing everything that dared to stand still. Somewhere in that storm, something was already dying. Caleb Reed drove with both hands locked to the wheel, knuckles white, eyes burning. The radio crackled warnings he ignored. This day had weight. 2 years ago, the same kind of snow had taken his wife, Anna, and his 8-year-old son, Leo, crushed metal and silence where laughter used to live. The passenger seat beside him was empty, heavier than any body he'd ever carried. Some nights, he thought about letting the storm finish the job. Then his headlights caught something wrong along the fence line. Shapes that didn't move. He slowed, stopped. The wind howled louder, as if urging him on, or daring him closer. He stepped out, cold punching the breath from his chest. The spotlight cut through the white and froze the scene in brutal clarity. 2 horses stood bowed beneath ice and snow. A chestnut mare shaking in terror. A pale gray stallion, still as surrender. Thick steel chains cinched tight around their necks, locked to a frozen post. Caleb's heart broke open. Someone had done this. Left them to the storm on purpose. The mare screamed when he approached, hooves striking air inches from his face. The stallion only trembled, eyes dark and resigned. Caleb worked with numb fingers, bolt cutters slipping, metal groaning under his weight. The wind stole his breath, his words, but not his resolve. The chain snapped. Then the second. The sound echoed louder than thunder. The horses didn't run. They couldn't. He led them, step by frozen step, into the trailer and drove through the night with the storm chasing him. He didn't take them to the main barn. He took them to the old one, the heritage barn, where Leo's small handprints still marked the wood, where laughter had once lived. Inside, hay smelled like memory. He wrapped them in old blankets, watched steam rise as ice melted into water, into life. And there, surrounded by breath and warmth, something inside Caleb finally gave way. He slid down the wall and wept. Not quietly, not politely, but fully, for the first time since the world had gone white. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, something began to heal. The barn no longer smelled like snow and panic. It smelled like antiseptic, old hay, and patience. Healing had a sound now, slow breaths, soft hooves shifting in straw, the quiet scrape of a bucket against wood. And beneath it all, the low hum of wounds remembering how they were made. Caleb saw the truth in pieces. Frostbitten skin that healed wrong. Old lash marks hidden beneath winter coats. A flinch at raised hands that came too fast to be learned in one storm. These horses hadn't been lost. They had been broken. Maya appeared without announcement, a small figure swallowed by an oversized coat. She didn't reach for the chestnut mare. She didn't speak. She simply sat, turned sideways, breathing softly. Minutes passed, then longer. The mare's ears twitched. Her trembling eased. When Maya finally lifted her hand, it was like an offering, not a command. The mare stepped forward, nose brushing wool. Trust, fragile as glass, formed in the silence. Caleb worked with the gray stallion. He spoke little. He moved slower than the pain inside him wanted to. One night, as he cleaned an old scar along the horse's ribs, the stallion leaned in, resting his head against Caleb's shoulder. The weight of that trust nearly buckled him. 2 broken beings, steadying each other. The truth surfaced quietly. A microchip. A call. A name spoken carefully. These horses had been stolen. Someone had tried to erase them. The Dunn brothers arrived in a black truck that didn't belong on the land. Smiles too sharp. Voices too smooth. Cash waved like a cure. Caleb said no. The air changed. After that came the warnings. A fence cut clean through. Bleach stinging his nose in the water trough. A note nailed to the barn door, biting into old wood shaped by his son's hands. Fear returned, but it no longer ruled him. The night they came back, violence found its voice. A gun raised. Gasoline splashed. And then thunder without sky. The stallion rearing, striking steel hard. The mare charging, fearless and wild. Red and blue lights tore through the dark as the law arrived late, but final. The men were taken. The truth followed. And in the quiet that came after, Caleb stood in the barn, hand on warm neck, knowing something had shifted. Healing hadn't made him weaker. It had made him unmovable. Spring arrived quietly, the way healing always does. Not with celebration, but with thaw. Snow loosened its grip and slid into the earth. Mud darkened under boots. Grass pushed through like it had something to prove. Caleb stood at the fence when the papers were signed. The woman across from him, eyes tired, hands steady, watched the horses graze as if memorizing them. "They were my father's," she said softly. "But they're yours now." She pressed the folder into Caleb's chest and stepped back, as if releasing something she'd carried too long. Ownership returned, then given freely. Love, not possession. The ranch breathed again. Morning sounds filled the air, water sloshing in buckets, hooves thudding steady against packed earth, wind moving through open doors. The heritage barn no longer felt like a wound. Sunlight poured through the high windows, catching dust motes and floating them like stars. What had once held only echoes now held life. Maya moved through it all like she belonged there because she did. She brushed the mare until her coat shone copper in the sun, whispered secrets into her neck. She stood with the stallion, forehead resting against his, breathing together until the world slowed. Purpose settled into her shoulders. She wasn't passing through anymore. The horses changed in ways that couldn't be measured. Strength returned first, then curiosity, then choice. One afternoon, Caleb left the pasture gate open by mistake, or maybe on purpose. The land beyond stretched wide and empty, mountains blue with distance. Freedom waited. The stallion reached the gate and stopped. The mare followed, mane lifting in the breeze. For a long moment, they stood there, unheld, unchained. Caleb didn't call out. He just watched, heart hammering. Then they turned back. They walked toward him, calm and certain, hooves steady, eyes clear. The mare pressed her head into his chest. The stallion stood close, solid as earth. Caleb closed his eyes and let the grief pass through him instead of burying him. It was still there, his wife's laugh, his son's small hands, but it no longer owned him. That night, the barn glowed warm against the dark. Caleb, Maya, and the horses moved together in quiet rhythm, a family not born, but chosen. The past remained, honored and held. The future stood open, patient and real.